computer. Here we go. Right. This is the News for You Online. You'll find it at newsforyouonline.com. Very easy. You can see it up here at the top. newsforyouonline.com. I'm going to sign out just so that you can see that you can sign in here. This is when you first log in, you'll see this and it will say sign in, enter your News for You password. I'm going to put, Elaine, if you would put this in the chat for everyone, the password is 471983. In fact, let's see if that works. 471983. And I'm going to click sign in. And what do you know? Welcome to News for You Online. So we are now logged in. You are welcome and encouraged, in fact, to share this password with every one of your students across your sites, because you and they have free access for this whole year. 471983. A little secret, if they're going to be using this in a computer lab or in classrooms, if you're going to be bringing it up on a whiteboard or wherever it is that they're going to be logging in, if they don't sign out and if they stay logged in, then they won't have to. They could just close their browser and go on about their business, and they won't have to log in again. It's only if they sign out, and some programs want the student to log out once she or he is finished for that session, because sometimes it's they're meeting with a student at a public library or at some other place where they're using someone else's devices. So that is the login and how you do it. And now that we're in, I'm going to introduce the various features, and should mention that you can use the News for You Online not only on a laptop or a PC, but also on a tablet, or on a mobile phone, whether it's an Android or an iPhone. It is compatible, a Chromebook, so you can access the News for You Online through really any of these devices. The experience will be slightly different, particularly on the phone, just because it's a smaller screen. You won't see everything in the exact same way. It'll be narrower, and so to look at article exercises, the teacher's guide, and some of the things that you see here in the right column as I'm scrolling down, they will all be at the very bottom and follow this article that I have pulled up, or whatever else that it is that's pulled up. So the visual experience slightly different, but you'll find that all the features are there regardless of the device that's being used. So the News for You Online, what exactly is it? Well, it is the News for You newspaper, which we have been making in print form since the mid-1950s, for English language learners and basic adult education learners. It is 7 articles 48 weeks out of the year. So there are 48 issues. Each issue has 7 stories that we use that are from the Washington Post and Associated Press. And we purchase those stories and rewrite them at an appropriate, at a reading level appropriate level for our learners. And we pay for that permission, but they are genuine articles from the Washington Post and Associated Press. Why 48 weeks out of the year? Because we take a break during Thanksgiving week and the week before, the week of, and the week following the Christmas holiday. News for You Online, however, is not interrupted for those weeks that we don't put out a new edition, a new issue. The News for You Online will just continue to show the last issue before that break. So had you logged in last week to the News for You Online, you would have seen the same stories from earlier on in December, as we take that 3-week break. The stories are written at 2 different levels. About half of the stories, well, 3 in fact, 3 of the 7 articles are written at a reading level 3-4, which is in ESL speak about I would say a high beginning for learners. And the other 4 stories that you'll find are written at reading levels 4 to 6, or like a low intermediate to an intermediate level. How do you know what level each story is? That's a great question, Greg. Thank you for asking that. You would actually look in the teacher's guide, and clicking on the teacher's guide for this week's issue, oops, that's the students. My mistake. Let me back out of that. Hey. There we go. I'll get it right. Give me just a second. You would actually find the teacher's guide for teachers here near the top under tips for teachers on the dashboard at the top. Clicking on tips for teachers, and here you'll find recent teacher guides. Here's the guide for January 10th. Clicking on that, it will open up, and this is a downloadable PDF that you're welcome to photocopy. And as you scroll down, you'll see the stories. This is one of the front page stories, the 2024 presidential election, its primary season. And as you scroll down in the answer key, you'll see in parentheses the reading level. So, judge blocks family separations at border. That's written at reading level 3 to 4. College for the deaf brings new ideas to football, reading level 4 to 6, and so on. The front page story, 2024 presidential election primary season, reading level 4 to 6. And it gives you a little more background. It's a national story. Every week in the teacher's guide, you'll see that one of the first 2 stories in Q for that week has a full lesson plan attached. And here it's on the presidential election story. They tie a Common Core or career and college readiness anchor standard to it. And it goes into detail. The content learning objective, learners will play a game using answers from the article. Before, during, and after activities, comprehension check, question discussion, a game. Just a great feature. And that is one of the 2 first stories every week. You'll have a full lesson plan that's already laid out for you. The other articles, and you can see here's the answer key to them, but if you continue to scroll, you'll find that each article has an exercise, and in addition to an exercise, a discussion question. This is all in the teacher's guide. There is a student version of this teacher's guide that doesn't show the students the answer key, nor does it show the level of reading, because that can be discouraging. They don't need to know what reading level each story is. But it will have the downloadable, printable questions so that you or they can print this and complete the activities. And the exercises that we have for each of the stories vary. We try and make it really well rounded. So sometimes they will be, circle the correct answer, multiple choice, true, false. Some can be grammar or vocabulary focused. Others can be opinion based, writing exercises, the word scrambles, sentence scrambles. See, answer each question below with a complete sentence or sentences, and then talk about the discussion questions. Fill in the blanks with the correct word from the box. We do our best to incorporate graphic organizers, and you'll find them frequently in the teacher's guide as one of the activities. Opinion sharing, whether it's talking or writing an opinion. Circle the true answers, then talk about the questions. Pronunciation work. Sometimes it's syllables, counting syllables. Here it's practice pronouncing the following words from the story. All kinds of great things that you'll find in the weekly teacher's guide. Back to our home page. As we scroll down, you can see the articles for this week. The presidential election. Another national story, judge blocks family separations at border. Here's one on sports. College for the deaf brings new ideas to football. Environment. Seeds dropped from drones could help heal the land. Just awesome. A woman gave her car away at her funeral. So there are human interest and animal interest stories. Speaking of, Japan turns to dogs to fight fire ants. Many North American birds are getting new names. And then lastly, and this is exclusive to the online version, you won't find this in the print edition, a news roundup. Now, today is Thursday, so this news roundup is shown at the very bottom. It's a weekly news roundup, and it's a little more current than the other articles can be because this is a print as well. It takes time to send it to the printers, and so the stories, by the time we get everything created and have the teacher's guide and questions and everything ready to go, some of the stories are already several days old. But the news roundup, since it's digital only, it's electronic, we can be even more up to date. So another COVID wave hits the US, explaining the Iowa caucuses, and we might not have been able to sneak these in on time. Great Lakes have less ice. These breaking news stories, if you will, are in the news roundup. Now, on a Monday and Tuesday, you'll find this news roundup leading off at the very top, because at that point in time, it's breaking news. So the news roundup will be at the top. And then on Wednesday, as each new edition comes out, the News for You runs online, runs 12:01 a.m. Wednesday morning is when the new one comes out. The new paper runs on a Wednesday start date as well. So each Wednesday early morning, then it will fall down to the bottom as the weekly news roundup and not at the very top. Hope I'm not making everyone dizzy here. So let's jump in, and before we take a look at some of the other features just dive in and I'll show you what every article in the news for you has. And we can do that with, you know what? Let's do it with animals. Japan turns to dogs to fight fire ants. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this story. You don't have access because I didn't sign in. I had to sign in again. Here we go. Okay. Japan turns to dogs to fight fire ants. So every story comes with just a great visual, and that's how I like to start lessons, whether or not it's for English language learners or native speakers. I think starting with a photo or a visual is a great way. It's a great discussion starter. It's a great way to introduce the topic. You could use it for just activities to get everybody going. What type of dog is this? Any number of questions to generate conversation. What is this dog doing? Japan turns to dogs to fight fire ants. What do you think this story is about? How do you think this dog fights fire ants? Or any number of questions just to get the juices flowing and get them thinking and participating. Whether it's in a group, one-on-one, or whether you ask these questions and have the students answer them independently, if they're working alone or if it's given as an assignment. These pre-reading activities, in my opinion, are crucial. And you could make it about you could base it on their prior knowledge of the topic or personal experiences. Are you a pet owner, a dog owner? What's your favorite type of dog? Do you know? Did you know that there are fire ants in Japan? Wherever that question may lead, or you could make it help them to make predictions and give them purpose. And that's really important as well, giving them purpose. Why are we reading this story? If it's just to learn, just to read, well, that's okay. But if you give them purpose, let's make some predictions. Let's look for specific information as we read this story and answer it along the way and after we read, right? So there are so many different things that you can do here to engage them and give them these objectives before you dive in. Another thing that you can do is use it as an opportunity to introduce some of the vocabulary words that they'll encounter as they read the story. Which vocabulary words, Greg? Glad you asked that. So let's scroll down. Let's scroll down into the actual story itself. That's a little small. So you know what I'm going to do? You can see here it says change text size. Me and my trifocals are going to click once and click twice. There are actually 3 settings just to make that a little bigger. And this can be especially handy if someone is slightly vision impaired, but especially if you're doing this in class on a whiteboard, it's nice to be able to adjust the font size. So I've made it a little bit bigger, and as I scroll down, you'll notice that I'm coming across a word, stings, and that word is in light blue, in bold and in blue. If I mouse over it, just bring my mouse on top of it, then the type of the word, it's a noun, and its definition is given. Pain caused when an animal or insect stings you. Okay. You'll notice also that in addition to being able to mouse over a vocabulary word for its definition and part of speech, I can mouse over any given sentence, and it's highlighted in a soft orange. Well, why? Well, let's say that we're reading this story and we encounter a word or words in a sentence that we don't know how to pronounce, like this person's name.
They have a sense of smell that can even find fire ants that are underground, said Hironori Sakamoto.
Yeah, just for the sake of integrity, I will share with you that it's Sakamoto, not Sakamoto. I'll have to let him know the next time I speak with him that hey, that was Sakamoto, buddy. But more often than not, he's dead on. They do an excellent job with pronunciation. But this is terrific for numerous reasons. Maybe you have someone who is on a wait list and they're not working with a teacher or tutor currently, right? So they're waiting for placement, they're waiting for an opening. What can you do to keep that future learner engaged? Well, you can give them this password and give them some some activities to do, some suggestions to keep them engaged. But gosh, the reading is difficult in parts, and their reading fluency is very slow, and their pronunciation needs help. How are they going to do that? Well, they can do it with help because they can
Later that month, 2 beagles showed off their sniffing skills.
follow along and listen and practice trying to keep up with the audio for correct intonation and emphasis, prosody, uh, the, uh, the reading, speaking fluently, reading along as they listen, uh, pronunciation, all of those things. Just great to have that there when an instructor is not present, or to give them a different pronunciation. You may have someone from good old Alabama as an instructor, um, and the way she pronounces some of the words doesn't sound at all like the way that this guy,
In Japan, dogs are fighting ants.
as opposed to maybe in Japan, dogs are fighting ants. And so it's great to be able to have that. Makes it just more versatile. So however this is being used, there's one more way to use the audio, and that is to click here, because not only can you listen by sentence by sentence as needed, but you can opt to hear the whole story. And that's great because now uninterrupted, they can try to follow along as they listen to the entire article being read, and they follow along for reading fluency practice. Or here's another thing that they could do, and this is terrific. Something that I would do often in Japan is I would have my students work in pairs or with me, and we would sit back to back and have dialogue. We would have a conversation. Maybe they would try to place an order, pretend that they're placing an order for pizza over the phone, or trying to schedule a doctor's appointment over the phone, whatever it was, and it became a listening activity. So they're not reading along, they're just listening, and without the benefit of facial expressions, body language. Instead, they just really have to focus on listening. So this could be a listening comprehension exercise. You could have them listen and take notes. So regardless of the level of the learner, they could be doing something very basic, clapping along, and counting syllables and working on rhythm and rhyme, or they could be working on pronunciation or doing something more involved like listening comprehension, um, note taking, and so on. So scrolling down, and we reach the bottom. And now you'll see that there are some comments here. Where do these come from? Let's Scroll down a little more, and readers, users are encouraged to leave a comment. So they can put anything they'd like on, in the name. They can use their first name, their last name, their full name, a nickname, whatever, and then leave a comment. Maybe they just want uh, to um, to weigh in on the story. I loved this story. Please give us more animal stories, right? Just a comment to the editor. Maybe they want to give an opinion, on the actual story. Let's scroll up here. It says Marcy Fole. Marcy Fole says the story says some countries have turned to flies to fight fire ants. The flies lay eggs on the ants. When the babies hatch, they eat the ants' heads from the inside out. And that's in quotes, so it looks like that's from the actual story. We'll see. I don't like this idea. It is yucky and mean. Okay, let's scroll up here. In fact, there it is. Some countries have turned to flies to fight fire ants. The flies lay eggs on the ants. When the babies hatch, they eat the ants' heads from the inside out. So here's a great thing. Marcy learned how to copy and paste, and she put that in her comments and then commented on it. That's fantastic. Kent B. Wrong. Kent B. Wrong said, maybe fire ant, its invasive species. How about my idea, Japan use anteater to work with dog? Okay. And this is great too. Another opinion. How could you use this? You know what? How about, because we do not correct spelling and or grammar in the comments. We leave them as is. And that's great because you could use this as an opportunity to say, do you see any spelling errors, any grammatical errors? Well, let's see. The M in maybe should be capitalized because it's at the beginning of a sentence. Maybe fire ant, its invasive species. How about maybe fire ants are? Maybe the fire ant is an invasive species, right? So you could correct the spelling, the grammar. How about my idea, Japan use anteater to work with the dog, right? How could we say this and make it grammatically correct, right? Or let's respond to Kent and say, hi, Kent, I think that's a great idea. You could do so many things with this. It's just one more thing to do, leaving a comment. Well, hey, Greg, does anyone ever make inappropriate comments? Yep. Every once in a blue moon, we'll catch some Weisenheimer that feels it necessary to post something, beyond silly, but, a little inappropriate or wildly inappropriate, maybe so race or politically or religiously charged that it's deemed offensive. And a comment like that, we monitor the comments on a regular basis and are dedicated to removing any inflammatory or inappropriate comment just about as quickly as it goes up. We pull it down. But again, most of the users find it a privilege to be able to actually post something on an international site like this and have it recognized. So that's really cool. Some instructors will give their students assignments and say, I'd like you to post your answer in the comments, or post a comment about the story so that I know that you read it. So numerous ways to use this. It's so many great things that you can do. Ick, you'll notice that Marcy at the end said, it is yucky and mean. So with English language learners, you could even get into something, like expressions and idioms and things that they may not be familiar with. What's another way to, what does ick mean? In the context, what is ick in this paragraph? what does the writer mean? Can you think of another a synonym for ick? How about ew or yuck or gross, right? So that could be an opportunity as well with English language learners, just giving them synonyms and different ways of saying things is a great practice. Beyond the story and having them maybe a chart, like a KWL chart, K for know, what I know, what I already know about this story or about this topic. W, what I want to learn from reading this article. And the L, learn what I learned from this story, right? And have them fill out the chart before for the K, and then the W and the L as they read and after they've read, right? Giving them purpose to read the story as well. Now, once you've read the story, you could have some comprehension questions, have them come back to the story and either answer from memory or close reading and citing information, citing evidence from the story, right? So ask them text-based questions that they would have to return and find the answer from the story. How do they think fire ants came to Japan? They probably first traveled overseas on ships, right? You could use it for that purpose. Once you've gone through and done these things, you can return and use it in other ways. If it's a very low level class and you're not going to engage in some of the higher activities that you could think of with maybe learners who are reading at a 5th, 6th, 7th grade level, then why not use it as an opportunity to practice with sight words? How many times do you find the word ant or ants in the first paragraph, right? You could use it to work on digraphs, 3-letter blends, vowel sounds and vowel blends. I found one that just in looking at this first paragraph, I see one that's I would use. The long E sound, EA, creature, feature, each. And I'm willing to bet. And that could be an activity for them as well. Give them 3 to 5 minutes to skim the story and circle every word that has EA with that long E sound. Now, they would skip spread, but they would circle overseas. Least. They would leave out ocean. Year. And so on. Beagles. Wow, this one is just chock full. They would leave out dead, right? So that could be an activity, or it could be something else. Another way to use this would be in concert or following up on maybe you're using a textbook in your class or with your student. Maybe it's side by side. Maybe it's Step Forward from Oxford University Press. Maybe it's from Cambridge. Whatever you're using in the classroom, and you happen to be working on a certain topic that you can continue to work on using this article. Maybe it's on something like turning a verb into a noun. So, for example, you have ants sting. So ants are stingers, right? Dogs to the rescue. Dogs sniff. Dogs are sniffers, right? Run, runner, swim, swimmer, sniff, sniffer, and so on. And you can find numerous examples. So this is another great way to use it is we're going to use an article that's at an appropriate reading level, complexity level, that and tie it to our text or the other work that we're doing in class. And this could just be a continuation, but with a new topic. Is that all we can do? No, far from it. Here up at the top, each story in the NFYOL Online has article exercises. So we can click on article exercises, which I will do now. Click. And here we have 10 exercises This one is read for details. Fire ants come from, and I have to select North or South America. Uh-oh. I don't remember that from the stories, and I don't want to get this wrong. What am I going to do? Oh, look at that. Return to article. This will open a new tab. So I can click here, go back and find that, fire ants come from South America. Well, there's my answer. So now I'll just go to the very top and I'll go back to the other tab and I will answer fire ants come from South America, and I get immediate feedback. Correct. So yet another really cool thing that you can do for every single story. And that's an article exercise. Lots and lots that you can do. All right, now I'm going to go back to my home page here, and we'll look at some of the other features quickly. From the top, there is this year a 2024 voting guide. You can download the free 2024 New Year News for You voting guide, or we can just click here and look at it. Click, open a new browser, and there's an 11-page voter's guide that gives great information on who votes, patterns, recent patterns in voting, who was once barred from voting, right? Great for civics. Reasons to vote. Why should we vote? Reasons given for not voting. Great visual literacy stuff here. Great charts, graphs to use. Great for discussion starters. Did you vote in the last election? Why not? What were your reasons? Is your reason listed here? Why do you think voting is important? What we vote on, national, state, local, ballot measures, choosing a president, and the entire process. So processes here. Primary elections, caucuses, conventions, the electoral colleges, the parties, major and third. How to get informed and stay informed by watching TV, listening to the radio, all kinds of great ideas here. What to watch for in a debate, a how-to. Before the debate, during the debate, after the debate, I can see so many activities here that you could do in projects. Political campaign ads, thinking about the message. So informative, but also really the potential to be so interactive. Registering to vote, and if English isn't your main language. Deadlines, proof of registration, casting your vote. Polling places, arriving, what you'll need, voting by mail, voting equipment. Voting vocabulary, finally. Just so cool. Also, every week, you'll see that there's a weekly poll that's related to one of the first two stories, which in the paper format, in the print, these would be first page stories. Are you registered to vote? So this one is related to the very first story, 2024 presidential election. Are you registered to vote? I am. So I'm going to click yes and vote. And they can do this. And then they can look at what other people have said. 27 people so far since yesterday voted said yes, I'm registered to vote. 8 said no, and 3 were uncertain. They can look at last week's poll results as well after there's been a full week. Let's go back to last week where the question was, how much food is wasted in your home? Right? 42 said none. 135 said a little. 44 said medium. 24 said a lot. So we could have discussion on this, right? And opinions. We could make our own classroom poll in the classroom. You could work on different types of graphs and charts. Show this to me using a pie graph, right? Show this to me using a line graph, a bar graph, a vertical bar graph. Or you could even use this for math. Let's work on percents, right? How would we figure out what percent said that they waste a lot of food? Well, first we'll need to know how many people in total voted. Then we'll need to make, right, 24 out of this and change that into a percent. So you can even work on math here. That's our weekly poll. There's an interactive crossword puzzle. Print edition has the same puzzle, but in this interactive version online, it makes it even easier and for students to complete if they're working independently. 1 across, freezing. Okay. Is that cold? How do I know if it's right or wrong? I'm going to click this box, the check box. Yep, that's correct. How about 1 down? Seedy part of an apple. That's the chip. Oops. Yeah, the apple chip. And I'll check my answer. And well, Elaine told me that it was chip. Should have known better. And there you go. 15 across, cut the grass, and I haven't a clue. Wait, I do have a clue by clicking on hint. So I'm going to click hint, and it gives me the first letter. Cut the grass. M. And upon completion of the crossword, then across the crossword puzzle, it'll say, congratulations. Right? And I've completed the puzzle. Crossword puzzle is great because it works on, there are idioms, expressions, Northwest for short. There are, abbreviations, geography, vocabulary. Pierre's state for short, right? Synonyms, all kinds of great stuff that you'll find in the crossword. Likewise, the word search. Now, some would argue the word search, what a complete waste of time, at least for instructional purposes. But is it? Because the words that they're looking for in the word search are all from this week's vocabulary list. And this is a great way to work on sight word recognition, right? Word patterns. Find the word convention, and it turns to a softer gray. I can check and it stays there, right? Oh, I also found the word Gavivaquuk, right? So I've got Gavivaquuk. That's weird. I don't see it here in the list. So I'll just check. Oh, it vanished. I guess Gavivaquuk, that must be one of the Slavic languages. I don't know. Never mind. So you've got your word search there. This teacher's guide is the student copy that I mentioned earlier. And then there are activity ideas for teachers, which we'll go to in just a moment. A bit further down, well, here's a how to use News for You online. It's about 7 minutes in length and usable by teachers, tutors, and students alike. These are all the vocabulary words from this week's edition. And this same mouse over feature is here. Right? So let's go up to the top again. And let's go to tips for teachers. I'm going to click on tips for teachers. That's where we found the recent teacher guides. You'll see the News for You voting guide is there. And then you'll see all kinds of tips. Well, next month, February is Black History Month. I can click here and it gives me some tips and some articles from the past related to Black history. That's cool. CCR standards. News for You articles are targeted to reading grade levels 3 through 6. Download this list to see which standards can be addressed with News for You. So if you're trying to create a lesson and you're looking for some ideas, you want to brainstorm and say, well, you know, how can I tie this to some of the college career readiness standards? Then you can download a list and it will give you some ideas. And it would not only to CCR standards, but also to ELA and TABE 11-12 standards, which, yes, we will upgrade to TABE 13-14 when that finally rolls out. But then all kinds of other tips as well. I want a reading comprehension activity, an activity on expressing opinions. Can you give me some suggestions for grammar activities? Well, how about a grammar treasure hunt? And here you can get all these cool ideas for ready to go activities, a noun or verb activity, word exercises, identifying parts of speech, sounds the same. How about for pronunciation? Yep. You can get a blending together activity, a sound search activity, news literacy, reading, role plays, summarizing, vocabulary. So many things here that can really help you maximize and get the most out of this. And do you have to limit it to using it just the News for You online? Heck no. Use these ideas for anything that you're using. It's just a great resource for teachers. Lastly, let me talk about the archive, and I'll open it up for a few questions if you can stay on a few minutes longer. Clicking up top on the archive. This is so cool because the archive dates back to April of 2008. Imagine that, 48 weeks every year, all the way back to 2008, 7 stories every week. Different ways to use the archives. The last 12 months, you'll find if you scroll down, the December 13th, that was the last edition before this week's because of that 3-week break. Here are the 7 stories. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you're looking for something recent and are looking just for a quick and interesting topic, or if you're recalling, remember 3-4 weeks ago we read that story, what was it? Then there's a quick way to find it, right? You could use this and have do a search and have the students skim and try and find the article or the topic by its title. You can just click on that story. Why hospitals are getting hit in Gaza, for example, right? Hockey players still skating at age 83. Oh my goodness. Another way to use the archives is to search for information. I want to find one of my all-time favorite stories. Long climb is all I can remember about it. So I'm going to type that into the search and search.
Greg, it looks like we might have had a question.
Yes, please.
Was it Ryan that had a question?
No, I was probably just scratching my head or
Oh,
petting the cat.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Elaine is definitely paying attention. Here we go. For a long climb, there are two results. This is the one I'm looking for. Kids have long climb to get home. Take a look at this. I'm going to click on this because I remember it. This is from July 13th of 2016. And I love using this. Kids have a long climb to get home. Tell me that's not engaging. That's what a discussion starter that is. Talking about emotions, right? Be descriptive, descriptions, adjectives, right? Who, what, where, why. And often there's more than one visual. Look at that. Oh my goodness. This particular story also had a short video attached. Chinese children climb cliff. All of this to motivate them and get them interested so that they'll read the story. And as I jump into the story, I see right off the bat, I'm going to work on CH words with my lower level learners today. China, children, attached, right? And on and on. There's lots of the Chinese, chili peppers. Lots of comments here. I will stay home because it's not worth it to die just to go to school. Okay. Really great stories. So that's how you can use the archives, right? A topic of interest. Maybe you want to search elections or debates or candidates or impeachment or hurricanes or earthquakes or puppies, fast food. So many ways to use the news for you online. Questions, comments?
My question is, how do you decide which articles to put in, and do you try to have at least one political article, one animal article? You know, is there maybe a pattern, or how are they chosen?
It's not a hard fast pattern, but that is a great question. That's a great question, not Bridget.
Not Bridget.
We do try and make it very well rounded, including at least one or two national articles, at least one human or animal interest story. We look for articles that are both current issues and some that are evergreen. not necessarily last week's news, or in the news everywhere. We also try to look for articles that would engage and be for academics, for example, technology, history, science, medicine. We don't always succeed because it's based on what we can find in the, in the week and a half before publication. So, but we do our very best to keep it really well-rounded so that learners, teachers and students can always find at least 2 or 3 stories that they like and or need. This one comes to mind. Gassy cows. Sounds crazy, I know. I'm going to find this super fast. Gassy German cows almost blow up a barn, talking about the methane gas, but there was another one about feeding cows seaweed. And I found it really fascinating. And I had teachers that were so excited about it because it talked about.
Go up a little bit. It was right there.
Did I miss it?
Yeah, you were there. Just by Burger King says changing cow's diet. No, right below. Let's see, where was it? It was just there on the screen.
Yeah, it's right in the middle almost.
Yeah.
It's right above hungry ?
Oh,
Yes.
eating a little seaweed. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I love the little kitty cat.
Help the planet.
My son has one. What's the name of your cat?
We have 3. This is Bradles, and then we have 2 kittens, Peanut and Meow.
Oh, my son and his wife, they have 3 cats.
Yeah. Ours are all orange.
Oh, are they? Theirs are different colors. Okay, I'll get back on topic. Just cute. Sorry about that. Sorry, Greg.
So
And-
on the surface, this could be a lighthearted, eating a little seaweed might make cows less gassy. What is that? Full of hot air. So you got some great, expressions, idioms. What does it mean to be full of hot air? Right? A little seaweed goes a long way. Cows have a 4-part stomach. Cows release methane when they burp, pass gas, or poop. Let's talk about different words for poop. Let's talk about different words for burping or passing gas. Hey, that could appeal to an ESL audience. But let's watch this quick video on the greenhouse effect. Let's talk about methane gases, climate change. And from the archives, if we want to continue the learning, then yeah, let's go to gassy German cows almost blow up a barn. A groundbreaking tractor could help farmers and the earth. So a lot of cool things that you can do. Any other questions, comments?
I have a question, Mr. Greg. So
Hi,
you
Gasoon, yes.
thank you. You mentioned that we can share the password with our students, so they will have access to the tip for teachers and everything. Like, is that okay?
It is. There is always going to be that one in the classroom that decides if you give them an activity, they don't want to do it the right way. They want to find the workaround. And if they work that hard for it and say, let me go to tips for teachers, and let me go into the teacher's guide, and let me scroll down and find the answer key, which they wouldn't even know exists unless they unless they decide on their own to go into tips for teachers and the teacher's guide, right? Then they would be able to find, but anything else that they find there, it's not going to do any harm. Yeah, so really there's nothing that I would say is off limits to the students. And there's nothing that they can do in here that's going to that would create a panic that they have to, oh my goodness, what did I do? I just signed us up for 5 more years. I'm going to get in big trouble. I just shared my information and my credit card information or my social security number, and I shouldn't have. It's very safe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was a great question because I wouldn't even have thought of that this soon. Like,
This is
is it safe to, they're not going to get us in any situations.
No.
I just want to say, I think this is fabulous. And what I'm really excited about is the connection to a mixed ELL, ABA, ABE classroom. Yes. Thank you for this.
Well, I'm thrilled to see that you were awarded this. I mean, that's a full year, and
Yeah.
use it with everyone. This is accessible, and it's just you can engage learners from a low beginning level,
Yeah.
and just use the photos, to engage them in conversation and to get them started, and then
Mhm.
go in and use it as a listening activity, help them with reading fluency, with pronunciation, use it at a low level with the easy recommendations that I gave, or go up and use it with those who are at a pre-HSE level, or on the GED path, and have them cite evidence from the passage, have them write a paragraph giving an opinion.
Or
Right.
the editing.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
hard to find good editing things. And this has a connection to so much stuff rather than just editing stupid random sentences. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And again, the archives. So if you're using another resource and you decide, gee, we used this, we talked about the Trail of Tears, or we talked about Cesar Chavez. I wonder if there's anything in the news for you, archives, that could support what we're doing in class. And I'll tell you what, oftentimes you'll find, oh my goodness, I can't believe it, but yeah, we could definitely use this, and tie it to what you're doing in the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. The idea of having unlimited, ideas and articles with practice, it's just phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, thank you all for your time, and we appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. My wife and my younger daughter are both educators here in Syracuse, in the school district, and often, they'll come home sometimes with rewarding, experiences, and they'll say, "I just have to tell you this story," but just as often, maybe more often, they'll come home pulling their hair out, saying, oh my goodness, today was so frustrating. So sometimes it's hard to stay motivated. Sometimes it's hard to feel great. So I commend you and applaud you for what you guys do and what your fellow instructors and other tutors do. It is invaluable. My wife, Japanese born and raised, she took advantage of a program here in Syracuse, and after completing the program at an ESL school within the district, then she had what she needed to go on, and she spent the last 18 years in the school district as a teaching assistant. Why was she able to do that? Because people like you, because of programs like yours that reach out and help others. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
It is
Thank-
very much appreciated to hear that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you too, Greg. It was a wonderful presentation. So I
Oh,
appreciate
Elaine, you knew you had me at News for You Online.
it.
I
I
love
thought
this resource.
I thought, what's he gonna say for an hour? So I just wanted to know, and I was quite impressed.
The question should have
motivating.
been, how am I going to get him to shut up after an hour?
Well, that's always on the table, Greg, but, oh, hey, listen, my other call's coming, so I have to go, but Greg, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and it was a pleasure to meet all of you very much, okay?
Thanks,
Enjoy.
everyone.
Thank
I'll be
you.
sending this recording and open invitation. If you have more questions, reach out to Elaine. She'll get in touch with me if she doesn't have the answer. And heck, I'd be glad to give a follow-up on this. There's always so much to share.
Great. Thank you very
Fantastic.
much.
Thank you
Greg.
very
Thank you for the
much.
Have a great
See you
rest of the week.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye
Thank you,
now.
everybody.